Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Josh Mansfield is unfortunately out sick today. This is parenting life. And so Josh misses our interview a little bit later on, and he's out today. So sorry about that, folks, but Josh will be back over the weekend for some reacts for the Champions Cup. First major is on deck. Super exciting. Waiting for this for quite some time now, and here we go. We're going to be out at Swenson Park in Stockton, California, home of the OTB Open, but now playing host to the PDGA Champions Cup. And a little bit later today, we will get the President's Cup, USA versus Europe. We're going to break that down a little bit later. We're also going to, make some picks, and I've got a really cool little pound-for-pound segment talking about Calvin Heimburg, who's going to be kind of our feature focus this week as he goes for his first major victory. So we're going to look at his stats at majors compared to the rest of his touring career in a little bit. But first, we've got an annual tradition. We're going to be talking with the Shawns. Shawn Jack and Shawn Mercy, the co-TDs of the OTB Open and this year's Champions Cup, are joining us live from the OTB studios in California. So let's go to the interview right now. Let's talk about this very interesting Champions Cup and some really interesting course decisions with the Shawns. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. You already know they've got the new Octothorpe, fully redesigned for 2025, available for pre-order right now. Estimated shipping is in just over a month, so you can lock in your bag. And hey, if you want to save some money, you can get all the accessories along with the bag in the Royale with Cheese bundle. It's available right now on the website. One price, you get everything. So you get the bag, either an Octothorpe or an Octohaul. You get the Rainfly, you get the Disc Caddy, adds a little structure to the bag. You get the HydroPack Contour, which is perfect fit in the lumbar, gets some extra support, and you got the water on deck at all times. You get a travel sack, so you can throw it in an overhead bin when you're traveling, and it won't get banged up, or you won't lose anything out of it. You get a flight towel, you get a mini, and you get a patch, and you save money over buying them separately. So check that out right now, the Royale with Cheese Octo Accessory Bundle. And I have some very exciting news coming for subscribers and listeners very soon that has to do with the Royale with Cheese. So stay tuned. More to come. Go to pounddiscgolf.com. Joining us now on the Upshot are the co-TDs of the PDGA Champions Cup here in 2025 and typically the OTB Open on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. It's Shawn Jack and Shawn Mercy with us once again. The Shawns are here, as they are every year in advance of this tournament. Guys, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlie.
This is a tradition that we really enjoy.
Absolutely.
Us too. I'm very sorry to say Josh can't make it. The show is going to be delayed until Wednesday because Josh is out with some sort of terrible norovirus type stomach bug.
Oh man,
that's my favorite one.
Yeah. Sorry guys, I found out this morning, like maybe an hour or two before this interview. So
poor guy.
Hope he feels
I will
better
hold
soon,
it down
Josh.
in his stead. First of all, the weather looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We got the major coming to California. We haven't had a dual division West Coast major in quite some time. We had U.S. Women's in Sacramento a couple years ago, but we haven't had, I don't even know the last time we had a big California major like this.
2011 Pro Worlds.
Thank you. You would know.
Which I played. I played in it.
How'd you do?
I was DFL card after the first round, and then I shot 1,000 right around a day lot and moved up a little and made it respectable, but it was not a good of a tournament for me.
How are things going with the preparations and everybody coming into town?
Fast and furious. It's been it's been a long burn since probably the middle of March, working on the course. And then since last Wednesday,
We moved here. We moved to Stockton last Tuesday.
yeah, so really Wednesday until now, it's just been constant,
12, 14-hour days.
yeah. Ran an amateur event last weekend that went fantastic, but, we're doing projects while that event is going on. And then, we're putting the final touches on this week.
Today is a big load-in day. We have our bleachers are coming, 2 elevated platforms, our
More barricades.
and a 40 by 70 foot tent that we're renting for food court and jumbotron. So the event already looks, I think, pretty grand. And as of 3 o'clock today, it'll be like bigger.
Yep.
How is it different preparing for a major versus your event every year?
I think it's really just incremental as far as the planning and the build out goes. It's not like an order of magnitude more complex or more work, but it definitely is more. And it's a little different working with the PDGA in sort of a supervisory role as opposed to the Disc Golf Pro Tour, which we've done 6 times before. So that, that was a little bit of a learning curve as well. But I think in general, given the fact that we've run this event now, this is our 7th year running either San Francisco Open or OTB Open, now Champions Cup. Even it was a lot more, but I think we're much more capable than we have been in the past.
So, I'm just kind of asking some brass tacks basics here. I mean, how are ticket sales looking? I'm especially interested in them the relative to past years.
Of course,
when you had this tournament.
I did an analysis yesterday morning, and we were up 40% on revenue year over year and 30% on tickets sold year over year. And I think the math works out pretty well. We do have an extra day.
Right.
That doesn't include President's Cup because President's Cup is free for PDGA members, so I'm not including those numbers. And I think we'll probably hit 2 to 250, I think, for active PDGA tomorrow, and then maybe another 50. But yeah, it's about what I anticipated. It's not like more. It's certainly not less. So I think we'll land at about a third more, I think, across the board, both in income and in spectators. It should be noticeable. I think on Sunday we'll have, definitely thousands of people. And by thousands, I don't mean maybe 2,000, but 1 to 2,000 people, especially because there's just more interest, not just for paid spectators, but players need more passes. We have more staff members. We have more volunteer members. It's going to be one hell of a party, I think, on Sunday.
Yeah. I was just looking at the pictures from the Pro Tour, Smug Mug page, and course looks pristine. I mean, it just looks spectacular out there. I know the biggest thing I want to talk about is definitely the course and how it's changed, particularly around what to me looks like the first true implementation of like legitimate alternate pin and some tee locations, which means that the course is going to play very differently the first 2 days than it does the second 2 days. Mm-hmm. How did you come to decide on, sort of this level of alterations? And then I kind of want to zoom in on a couple of holes.
Well, we were already thinking about, layouts for this year leading into last year when we came on your podcast and talked about being awarded the major. And of course, first person we talked to is Leonard. How are we going to do this? We have
Hall of Fame member Leonard Muse.
Oh yeah, congrats, Leonard. And so his gears were already turning back in May of 2024, and probably by June he already had like relatively fleshed out concepts of what he would try to do. But given the property, there was really only one option to do 2 layouts, and that was to use essentially the same routing as we do for the regular course, but have variability in tee pads and or baskets because we just don't have the space to do a second compelling course. So we're already using probably the most compelling areas of the property, given, all the other constraints. And, we kind of let Leonard loose for a few months through the summer. And I think we met early December to start kind of funneling down what we would actually, agree to bite off of the hundreds of ideas that he had come up with, some extremely crazy and some only moderately crazy. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be a collaboration because he can come up with the most amazing concepts, but if he's not grounded in what we can actually execute, we're not going to be able to do it, right? And so he's already kind of filtering out for that based on our experience working together the last several years. But then when you get on the ground, you're actually looking at this stuff and seeing how many different types of changes, how many T-pads, how many features, how many trees you want to plant. We planted 10 trees this year to help just complement the increase the challenge, I guess, of the course. So they're very intentional in specific locations. And then at the end, it's kind of a bit of a negotiation to get the final the final scope, I guess,
or a muse capitulation.
Yeah. But that's probably the most uncomfortable part, to be honest, because he put so much time into this and it's hard for us to wrap our heads around all of what he is thinking needs to be done until we get pretty close. And then there's some uncomfortable conversations, just to work through those final things. What are we going to actually do? And I think we ended up with 2 really awesome layouts that are pretty well balanced. There are 10 holes that are different in some way, whether it's a different basket location, a different tee pad, or in 2 instances is a completely different hole using the same space. And then, so that would be hole 6 and hole 9. And then hole 16, we built 2 new tee pads to make a long par 4 version of that. Which is the one that plays along the levee. So
new 16 MPO long, I think, is going to be one of the most challenging holes of the year. It's 680, right?
I don't know the distance,
but it's a low ceiling. I mean, which is where the low ceiling open. It's just it's got a pinch point mando, and it's going to deliver a lot of scoring separation. Mm-hmm. Really excited to see how that one plays out.
So, how is the feedback so far from players? Because this is, this basically hasn't been done. I mean, there's a couple tournaments that have had a pin move 20 feet, but we haven't really seen this kind of approach ever.
No, we did it.
Yeah, but
we
not
did it
to
in
the
21
same
to 22.
extent, right? To have half the course change with some brand new holes. Right. I feel like this is and to be clear, I am in favor of this kind of thing. I think it's a great way to increase the, intrigue of a tournament over the course, particularly when you're just playing a single course over the, a 4-day event like this.
Well, Josh screams a lot, no 4-day tournaments on the same course. That's one of his mantras. I think we heard that echoing and we're like, all right, we'll make 1.5 courses.
It's also just intuitive, right? We've all played tournaments, and if it's 3 rounds, like an A tier, one course, even that, local A tiers, you'll move basket positions though, right?
Right. You play the yellows, you play the whites.
It's kind of actually in our DNA because our home course tournament is called the San Francisco Safari because it was a safari course, and so that tournament is bizarro. We play almost 54 different pins. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of our brand in a way.
So what are players telling you?
So far, I've had, I would say, I don't know if every player knew that we moved hole 1. It's a completely new hole. It's on the other side of the property. And then every other hole is a different version of itself, but they have to practice, 28 holes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically 28 holes. And, the folks that showed up on Thursday and started camping on site were like, I'm really happy that I'm here early because they need more practice time. So I'm not sure that the players all knew what the demands were going to be. And I had a player asking me, hey, I'm showing up on Wednesday at 4. Am I not going to be able to get a practice running because of President's Cup? And I'm just like, no, you'll get it in, but you should be here earlier.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's a little bit of if you're not getting in at least 4 practice rounds, you're going to have some issues. And practice actually is a little bit constrained because we have a lot of activity. We had a Monday qualifier yesterday. We have,
We had an amateur event over
the weekend. Go throws here this morning. Tomorrow's the President's Cup. There's just a lot. So we admit that it is a little bit demanding for the players to squeeze in enough rounds in the course. But we do have a lot of light, and people are playing from 7 to 7.
Yep.
I have a global complaint. This is not specific to your tournament.
That's good.
Courses whether they come back or they're coming for the first time, there's very little information available about the course or what is changing about the course until maybe 7 days before a tournament. And sometimes I feel like the Pro Tour will drop some new thing and it's you pull up the caddy book and you're like, wait a minute, what? So I don't know if there's a way to really solve this, but
I think a lot of times they're working right up into that 7th day, though.
I think that's right.
Right. It's just reality.
Fair.
But we certainly also, I don't think that the events are in the news cycle until usually 1 to 2 weeks before.
Well, I agree. But, then if players, if they didn't know, right, they could have been told a month ago, right, that there were going to be 10 different holes
sure.
on the property.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I would love to talk about a couple specific holes. You already mentioned some. Should we talk about 16? I guess I'm looking at the caddy book, right? I haven't seen flyovers yet. I haven't seen the course yet, and the alteration. So I would love for you all to focus in on the particular holes where you think either it's an especially interesting change to the tee pad or the pin location, or maybe 16 just because it's going to be hard.
I think without a doubt the most compelling change is hole 12.
Okay.
Which was hole 11 last year, for people who remember last year's numbers. So for the past several years, actually, I think this is one of the holes that was in the original layout in 2021 that we kept. So it's two tee pads typically playing across 2 ponds to 2 separate baskets on the left side of the second pond.
Right across, Party Island is right across. So it's what those folks get to view.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that was a very strong hole, I think, in general, both for challenge and for spectating. Scoring separation had kind of all the ingredients you want. And because we have all those spectators there, one of the things we asked Leonard for really year after year is more throws where spectators can almost feel the disc, hear the disc and see the full flight. And so Leonard came up with an alternate version of that hole where both divisions tee off the FPO tee pad, going all the way to the end of the second pond. And there's a landing zone just short of Party Island on the right side of the big oak that people have to choose whether to go right or left, where we actually put in blocker walls on the edge of the pond to encourage mostly MPO players to throw further up into the landing zone to get in position for eagle, to then be able to unleash a 450-foot throw across the water in front of the spectators.
Which is a forced carry, and if they don't make it, they got to do it again. So
wow.
It's not exactly a forced carry. They can pitch across. They can if they hyzer out early. There's basically inbounds going all the way from the greens of the par 4 baskets to the green of the par 5.
Yeah, we'll throw the holes up onto the YouTube version if you want to check it out. But I see there's this tiny little skinny OB line right along the water's edge. I assume that's specifically for if people hyzer left into the OB or right, I suppose, that they get to take it from there.
It's almost like a progressive drop zone, the way it works out.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's going to be so much fun to watch. And there's a spectating area now to the right of that green that can also watch 18 that we have tents set up. Mm-hmm. That's going to be maybe the best place in the course to watch golf.
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah, that whole area now is very tight, but separate enough and beautiful. The sun was setting last night out there. It was just gorgeous.
It's been gorgeous out there in general. One of the other things that I think worked out better than we expected, and it was a little bit lucky exactly how it worked out, is the new stage location for hole 1.
Oh, yeah.
We moved it for people who have been to the event before. We moved it to basically where the food court was in the past, near the Foxton Cafe. And we had a plan to play this hole down parallel to what is now what was hole 17, now hole 18. But the tee shot was framed by 2 large oak trees, and about
A month
a month ago, the left oak tree fell over. And basically, like, I knew intuitively Leonard was not going to move forward with that. So, excuse me, we immediately engaged on a redesign of that hole. It resulted in us moving to the right of the oak that was on our right. So now it's on our left, but it puts us in it gives us a perspective to be able to look down on the course and see hole 18 drives. We can see a lot of hole 12. 13's green.
8.
8. So you can see a bunch of action far off in the distance. 2.
Yeah. And we leaned into the stage again. We spent more money on it.
Mm-hmm.
We doubled the size of the luxury box and added a 3rd layer, and then we rented the shade structure. So it looks like the 3rd stage at Coachella, not the 1st or 2nd one. Like, you know what I mean? Or maybe the 4th one. Like, it's we can fit dozens of people up there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Wow. It's cool. What other Spectator stuff is new or upgraded this year?
That's definitely the biggest upgrade. We're adding a 2nd stage platform. Pin high with 18. We were joking that the 2 stages are across the pond from each other. It could start like a Hatfields and McCoy's water balloon flight. Like, so I would say, the 2nd platform, the bigger stage, closer general admission spectating areas. Like, we're letting them get onto the course more and more up close and personal.
Yep.
We increased the size of the parking, the way more better overall flow regarding food, the vending area, and then the food court. We rented a 40 by 70 foot tent so you can be in a shaded area, watch the Jumbotron. We have a 6-hole pitch and putt course. Mm-hmm. We're building a 9-hole mini disc golf course, like in between MVP and OTB's shops on site.
In Vendor Village.
And then This year we brought on a young woman in Northern California named Serenity, who tasked her to help build like a more kid-friendly vibe. So we're having a bouncy house. We're getting face painting on Saturday and Sunday, where we told the painter to come prepared to do the logo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We're having a disc decorating station. I have a 5-year-old, so like I've gone to a lot of street festivals and like learned like, what resonates with kids. So yeah, there's like 5 things that we're trying to get the event more family friendly. I went to the USDDC last year, and Jonathan Poole was a fantastic TD, and he like finally cracked the code where I was like, there are multiple families of color, like at the event, enjoying not even the disc golf, just the vibe,
just hanging out.
Yeah, he had a 1-wheel obstacle course, fireworks, telescopes.
Oh wow!
That's cool. It was. I think he runs the event year round as his role, so I'm envious of that, but. Yeah. We just try to steal and borrow ideas that are cool.
We have some good ones of our own.
Absolutely.
Purely derivative over there. It's fascinating. I guess you probably won't be able to answer this question fully until after the event, but do you want this to be a recurring major venue, or are you content to just have it be a Pro Tour stop?
I'd like it to come back. I'd like to be like on the short list, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it would feel weird to go back to being a 3-round Pro Tour after this year. So I don't know.
Maybe Elite Plus next year. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Too early for a playoff, obviously. But yeah, I think after doing this, it gives you confidence to be able to do something a little bit bigger again, right? That's how we got here, and I think that's how we're able to execute this major. But yeah, I think we would be open to doing it again.
So from a like event side, how much are you working with the PDGA on this? Like, does it feel different than running your Pro Tour?
Yeah.
Or is it pretty much the same type of thing?
I mean, we've had weekly meetings with them for months.
Yeah.
It's definitely different.
It's different. But I think that
it's different. But Phil is the guy we're talking to, right? Who's the director of competition for the PDGA, and he would be one of the guys we talked to if it was a Pro Tour event. So there's a lot of but it's. I will say I love the PDGA, but they're not a full-time event management company, right? They don't do this all the time, and so the Pro Tour does. So I think it's a bit more.
I think the Pro Tour is a bit more structured. They have more processes that are
Sure.
wrapped around planning, execution, from spectators, players, vendors, media, all of that stuff. And some of that does apply this year because the Pro Tour, I think, has the media rights, or at least
the media is apples to apples. But like we had to get signs that said bathrooms and next tee. Like now the PDJ has all those things at scale, but little tiny things. But
so I think the fact that we have done the Pro Tour event, 6 times, put us in a good position to be able to do this. I won't say mostly on our own, but mostly on our own as a local organizing committee, obviously making sure we're synced up with the PDGA, what their requirements are, what their needs are, and getting their support there.
We also hired the Pro Tour, which is weird because it's my employer, to come out like for use of on-course assets, for use of Max. So like it's not like they're also here helping like in a contractor capacity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is very
what's really weird is I had to pay the Pro Tour to use the on-course assets, which I sell.
Yes, it's strange bedfellows situation.
Yeah, but we did the same thing like in 2023 when Shawn and I were assistant TDs of Worlds. So that existed. Like when I was pitching people in 23 to sponsor the tour, I'm like, do you also want to sponsor Worlds? In the same conversation.
Right.
That's where I had to be like very mindful of my tact.
So normally, just to like let people in some insight here, right? So normally if you're on the Pro Tour, they're bringing a crew of people to do all of that asset setup, to put up the advertising, to put in the flags and the banners and the signage, and they're taking care of that. You're not taking care of that.
We help.
Yeah,
right.
we provide volunteers.
Yeah, we have volunteers help. So the Pro Tour is doing that. Like Max is out there setting up. Like OTB is a sponsor of the tour and the event, right? So they have Zuka sponsors our events, and there's also 10 other sponsors that are sponsoring both the event and us. So Max is taking care of that mostly on his own. The PDGA is here with a robust team. I think they've had 3 guys here for 4 or 5 nights that are doing their on-course assets. Yeah. So they have
the PDGA specific stuff.
Oh yeah, correct. They have hundreds of feather flags and tents, and those guys are kicking ass and doing all that stuff.
Got it.
And then we also backfill and help wherever we can for both. And the MVP, besides being a significant financial supporter of us, they have a team on site doing their on-course asset installation.
Yep.
Well, the Upshot will be there tonight to start putting up our on-course assets in the middle of the night without asking. I might spray paint lines. You never know.
Oh, my God.
So I guess, would you suggest, now that you've seen both sides, right, and, Shawn, Jack, I know you're heavily tied to the Pro Tour, would you suggest that there be a better path for how to run these, like, with the kind of the coordination between local organizers like yourselves, PDGA when they're running a major, Pro Tour and their capacity as the broadcaster and media side of things? Is there a better method for when it's a PDGA major and not a Pro Tour?
I mean, I'm completely biased in this opinion, but I think there should be a similar synergy between operations as there is with media with the Pro Tour. Like, not let the Pro Tour run majors, but
provide the framework.
I mean, I think that's Phil's addition to the PDGA. That's, I think, happened organically and incrementally. But let the Pro Tour help on an operational basis, similarly how they do with the media. Like, there's no downside to that.
Makes a lot of sense.
But I'm completely biased that I think that we should do. I can see why maybe the PDGA wants more control, right?
They do other majors anyway that aren't all pro majors, right? So they're already supporting majors from bid process to actually running the tournament. I think these pro majors are just in a different class. It's a different beast.
Right.
Because you have to have a 360 view of what's going on. And it really comes down to, I think, vending, spectators, revenue. The course stuff is, obviously a higher level, but I think it's just way more complex. And so if you don't have people who are experienced in that sort of thing, you just don't know what you don't know. And the Pro Tour has obviously learned a lot over the 10 years that they've been doing
hundreds of events.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
So experience is huge.
Who's winning this thing?
I'm not
4
gonna
rounds.
say.
Who
I'm
gets an
scared to say.
advantage?
We were talking about this, and I'm like, we've never had a repeat MPO winner, and Gannon's the best player in the world, and he's never won a tournament.
He's actually gotten worse over time. Not
But
a lot.
He
but,
has also not been seen on the property yet.
oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. I know who's been here and prepared the most, and that typically helps. But also Simon won a few years ago, and I don't think he showed up like Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right.
I'm a little bit afraid to say, based on the new constraints of DFS. But
sure.
Yeah, I don't know, because we have 1.5 courses, and there's going to be so much scoring separation coming down those last 3 holes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who can survive 16, 17, 18 and shoot even or 1 or 2 under on those holes is really critical.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the course before, about the major changes, but most holes have some change, and none of it is to make it easier. So like 18's, what was 17? 18's OB line on the left it pinches down to maybe 15, 20 feet, whereas it was 40, 50 feet off to the left before, just to, you have to make a decision. Do you want to go for the green? Do you want to pitch up to get closer for an easier chance to go to the green? And the OB water's on the right, OB land is on the left. So I think it's just going to be a lot. It's going to play, I think, significantly harder, even though you're looking at the same areas.
I want to circle back around to 16 MPO longs. Par 4, 735 feet. There are 3 Mandos. One is pretty tight to the OB left. Again, we'll throw up the caddy book image on the YouTube. Is the forehand a play off the tee? Is it even an option? It's hard to tell. It looks like a lot of trees along that left side.
I'd like to see someone throw a forehand.
How far is the
right-hand forehand?
How far is the first Mando? Like 3?
Well, it says it's 410 to the pin, so that would make it about 325.
Yep, that feels right. Yeah, I don't think forehand is your first choice off the tee. Right-hand forehand. So this is it's playing on top of a levee that is adjacent to what they call a slough. It's just like a water channel on the left of the property. And so you're up elevated, and then it drops down on the right side on the course side. And then there's oak trees that kind of frame a tunnel that you have to throw through. So you have to throw pretty straight for a good distance to get to that Mando. And then it opens up a little bit, and you can play what ends up becoming, the regular par 3 hole 16.
Right. So sort of just adding this first shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's very stressful.
Yeah.
Like as a decent, age protected golfer, I have no idea how I'd play the hole. Like I don't.
We took the easy shot out.
You
off
can't
the
lay
tee,
up
too.
to the drop zone, because we put how many posts?
5.
5 posts on the right, so you can't like.
Oh, I
throw,
see those posts on this map here.
Yeah, you can't throw like a Firebird to lay up to the area. Like, maybe buzz.
So those posts are very intentional. We call them the fickle fingers of fate. Credit to Durlu on that. But yeah, we bought they call it dowel material. So it's like a lodge pine pole that's machined down to a cylinder, and we put them in the ground. They're about 10 feet tall. And we angled them in such a way so that it's not, we're blocking a shot, but it's not like in your face. So it's like angled to kind of go directionally from right to left, and it takes out the easy pitch hyzer up to that Mando.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So how wide is it from the OB left to the Mando right at the pinch point?
40 feet?
40, yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty big, but you have to navigate a long shot,
Yeah.
and you can't hyzer out.
Right, and it slopes
And you
down
can't-
left to right.
And if you throw too low, you cut roll out of bounds.
Right. Wow.
It won't be a headwind, at least. It's a tailwind.
It's protected in this area.
It's a tailwind.
I see it. It's just that it's still.
Yeah, Leonard designs very intentionally with wind.
Oh, yeah.
Like even the whole 12 that we mentioned before, it's a left to right tailwind.
I will say that's one of the features of this property in this area is the trade winds, or the normal direction of the wind is westerly, I think they call it, but it's west. It's coming from the west and is very reliable. So we
Got
can.
it. You don't
we
get
can-
swirly. You get consistent.
No, and
directional
maybe if
wind.
a storm comes through, it could switch and come from the east, but almost always this time of year is coming from the west.
Very interesting. All right. Well, a President's Cup is coming up tomorrow. Well, by the time the show comes out, it'll be today. We haven't had the President's Cup in the U.S. in a while. Are you excited for that and what it could bring?
I think I'm more excited than Shawn. He was a little concerned on like the load it was going to bear on us to
Impact
manage
to
it.
practice, like there
Yeah.
was,
But it was just too much of a cool opportunity to turn down.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was the first time it was in the United States for like 3 months. And then I learned it was at the USDDC in 2010.
Oh, that's right.
And Jonathan Poole is actually coming, which is pretty cool. So I'm thrilled about it. I have the jerseys at our house. I'm actually wearing the US jersey right now underneath. And I'm hoping it's a really compelling, like the 9-hole loop that we've chosen for them to play, because it's 9 holes of stroke play followed by 9 holes of match play,
Yep.
are like gems. We play hole 1, then hole 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18.
Yep.
Are just a great, beautiful loop with a lot of water features. And we finally, because I think the most compelling reason for me to become a major was to get the best players in the world. And we've always had, the European women, a lot of them don't come. Some men will skip the event because of the drive across the country so far. But very, very few, if any, of the top 20 players on each side are not here. And it's so cool to see Kristen here, Henna, Evelina, Silva. I'm really excited to see how they're going to play the course. And the event has some gravitas, right? Like I think it's, UC Maresma's here, Avery Jenkins is here. It's just cool to see some of the, future Hall of Famers of the sport, on site and being part of it.
Awesome. Well, excited to check it all out. I'm looking forward to seeing it all on camera. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be out there this year, but someday,
You can
guys.
still make it. It's direct. New York City to
Hasn't
SFO.
started yet.
It's a quick 5.5 hour flight.
I was just in Oakland, and then
You were?
Vegas. I was there for literally
You got to come out and play Golden
6
Gate with
hours.
us.
I next time I would love to.
Please.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I would love to. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Good luck with the event this weekend, and we'll be following along.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlie.
Sean Jack, Sean Mercy with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Thanks again to the Shawns for stopping by in their busy week leading up to the event. Super interested to see how this course situation plays out. Listening to the press conference a little bit, hearing from some players in the practice rounds that have just been coming out. It does sound like for the most part, players are pretty intrigued by the change up on the course. Having some different holes to play, different tee pads, different pin locations. I certainly know as a viewer, I'm excited to see some variety as we kind of navigate the same track for the 4 days of this major. Overall, the course does come in a little bit shorter, but it's still a beast. The A track for MPO, 11,000 feet par 65. It's 11,042 feet par 66 in the B layout. That's actually down a little bit from last year. New hole 1 and some changes. But still, 11,000 feet is easily the longest course we've got on tour so far. For FPO, it's pretty much the same lengths as last year, just a little bit over 9,000 feet for each of the layouts. B layout is about 150 feet longer. They're both a par 67. So big arms tend to have an advantage out here. We've seen that historically. But you know what? Owen Scoggins has played great out here too. So it's not just a straight bomber fest. It's still about keeping it between the lines, playing smart golf, and you don't have to have max elite distance in order to win, but you do probably have to have it in order to be, you have to be top quarter probably to be truly competitive out here, especially in MPO. So going to be really interesting to see what happens. Lots of low ceilings. We know this. Lots of roller shots. And that's why you've got to love a player like Calvin Heimburg, right? And I want to pull a clip from the press conference. Nate Perkins was asking questions yesterday at the press conference, and he asked Calvin a little bit about just the underperformance that he's had, or at least the perception of an underperformance that he's had at the majors. Let's hear from Calvin from the press conference.
Calvin, I want to, jump into the difficult question of what is it that has kept you from taking down a major so far in your career?
Yeah, I mean, you get 4 opportunities a year. I mean, not even always, some of the years around on tour, but yeah, I just haven't ever, played 4 good rounds at the right tournament. So, or 5, I guess, if you could talk about Worlds. But yeah, it's a long tournament. You really got to string them all together. And, it's not easy. You get way less opportunities. So it's something that's hard to do, and I just haven't done it.
Is that something that even weighs in on you, or do you feel like, fans, the internet, they are too zoomed in on the magnitude of major titles?
Obviously, I think they're our biggest events, so they are very important. I don't know that it really weighs on me, especially in this moment, because everything's so chaotic this week. There's not really any time to really sit down and think about it. I'm just trying to make sure I know where I want to throw my shots. But I think, I think short term, like right now, obviously I'd want to win one, but it's not like eating at me. I think it's like one of those things that as like a fan, it's something you look at, because I guess when you really talk about like the legacy of a player or whatnot, that is like one of the first things you look at. Like, it's like, how many major titles did they win? So I think like that's really where that weighs the most. And I'm not super concerned with that now. I guess be concerning yourself with legacy when you're playing seems like a weird thing to do. I mean, I want to win this tournament. I'm going to try to win this tournament. And whether or not that happens, we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, do you feel like the pressure of a major has at all played a role in the past, or do you feel like that's unfair because it really is just about less opportunities? It feels like you've been there in the past, and it feels like there's a narrative that you can't close. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had my opportunities. I wouldn't say there's like been a ton. Honestly, I don't know. There might only have been like one major that I've ever even been leading going into the final round. But I've definitely been there and had my opportunities to maybe, chase someone down, and never have done it. But I'd have to really go back and think. I think the only one I can really think of that really hurt was European Open a couple years ago. But
I feel like U.S. in the rain.
Yeah, U.S. in the rain. But like, I was also 10 strokes back going into that round. So, I mean, and then 17
Worlds
got me.
in 21.
Yep, I don't think I was leading going into that round. I could be wrong though. But I was there. I mean, I was with a couple, so like I definitely get the narrative. They definitely seen me on enough lead cards going into the final round. But I haven't done it. I don't know.
So that was Calvin at the press conference, and that brings us to our segment, Pound for Pound. Pound for Pound is presented by Pound Disc Golf. Carry excellence. So what we're looking at today in our pound for pound segment is Calvin compared to himself. How does he match up between the majors and the Pro Tour and National Tour events that he's played throughout his career? So I decided to draw the line at 2018. Calvin did play a couple of world championships before 2018, but he wasn't a touring professional yet. He hadn't really popped onto the scene. And remember, 2018 is kind of when he had that breakout. He had that really strong start. I think he was in the lead after round one of Worlds when he, I think he eagled the par 5 at Fox Run. And it was like, whoa, like Calvin Heimburg, like, who is this guy? And that kind of launched him into this tremendously successful career that he's had. So let's take a look at the stats. Since 2018, he has played 19 majors and 104 Pro Tour and NT, so like Elite Series events. In those, he has 0 wins at the majors, 11 wins on the Elite Series. He's got 4 podiums in the 19 major starts. He's got 38 podiums at Elite Series events. So let's talk about that in a percentage term, since it's a little bit more meaningful. Podium rate at majors, 21%. At Elite Series, 37%. Top 10 rate, 58% majors, 75% Elite Series. So we are seeing, obviously, significantly better performance from Calvin at the Elite Series as compared to the majors. But the thing that I will put in his camp that I think maybe needs to make a step back and think about, like, how do we interpret these numbers? His average rating on the Elite Series is 1043. His average rating on the majors is 1041. That's not a very meaningful difference. I mean, a little bit, but like we're talking about like less than a half stroke per round. So maybe you're talking about a stroke or two of difference over the course of a few years. I think what it tells me, of course, we know one thing. Majors have bigger fields, stronger fields relative to your average Elite Series event. I think that, that's changing more now in 2025, but I do still think it's a fact. Like there's more strong fields when we get to the majors as compared to what we see at, a typical Pro Tour event. Certainly some Pro Tour events have major-like fields. Others, are missing a bunch of the Europeans, a couple guys taking a break. And it does mean that, it's easier to finish in the top 10 or to finish on the podium or even to win potentially. What this doesn't account for in this comparison is really those times when Calvin has been close. I mean, and Nate was really pushing Calvin more than you really see him press people in these interviews about those moments where he had a chance to go out and win and he didn't. And I got to be honest, like, credit to Calvin for taking all those questions really well and being honest and, acknowledging that, like, the legacy discussion does, focus on majors at the end of the day. And I also think that he's probably being truthful when he says that he's not necessarily, like, stressing out about the fact that he hasn't won a major. That said, I think, if you gave him a lie detector test, he would probably admit that the final round of a major, when he's in contention and needs to play his best, he's probably feeling more nerves than when it's the Jonesboro Open or name your tournament. So why focus so much on Calvin this week? Could you ask for a better 4-round course for Calvin to win a major on? I mean, obviously he won here at OTB last year, but he's also just super good at this event, period. Like, this is just a spot on the calendar where you have to feel really good about his chances to win his first major title. His average finish at Swenson Park is 3.25. His average round rating is 1052. That is best in MPO over the, 4 years that we've played at Swenson. Ricky averaging 1050, AB averaging 1045, Aaron Gossage, maybe a sneaky pick opportunity, averaging 1044, along with Gavin Rathbun, who's also played quite well here. Gannon Burr is at 1042. So look, this is the spot for Calvin. He's the best player at this course over the last 4 years. He has literally won this event in a 3-round format last year. You have to love his chances this weekend. And I know Calvin fans everywhere are just getting anxious. They're getting excited. They know that his low ceiling power is just absolutely perfect for this course. And a big underperformance this week would be a huge disappointment for Calvin. I don't think it's win or bust, because it's unreasonable to expect that of anybody at a major, but he's obviously the best player that doesn't have a major. I mean, it's not even really close, right? Like, maybe you would put AB in the conversation there, but like Calvin has clearly been the better player over the course of his career than AB, who only got his first wins on tour last season. So I am super excited. I think that this is the challenge of this course, which, some of the holes that we heard from the Shawns about, really, they speak to exactly that. Some of the decision making that you have to do. I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get to my picks for the week, I want to zoom in quickly on the President's Cup. It's USA versus Europe. Calvin, in another answer, by the way, said that he didn't like that the President's Cup was coming right before a major and thinks it should really be its own standalone event. He likes the event. He likes the format, but he doesn't like that it's really condensed and that it happens right before a major, which of course it has historically as well, coming right before the European Open. And honestly, I don't blame him for feeling that way. If anything, I feel like this should happen 2 or 3 days before the event rather than literally the day before. I understand from a logistical perspective why they do it this way, but it's not ideal to have it coming on the, front end of what so far is going to be the biggest tournament of the year. It's kind of just like, feels like it might be a little bit of a distraction. That aside, I love this event. Super fun. They're playing 2 phases. They have individual best shot, and they play 9 holes. So they have 4 player groups, 3 MPO groups, and an FPO group, and it's just individual best shot scoring. So 28 points up for grabs. They send out those points. Then they do head-to-head match play in the second phase with numbered matchups based on the sort of like quote-unquote seeding that they have coming into the tournament. So 1 plays 1, 2 plays 2. You get 3 points for a win, 1.5 points for a tie. And then you just aggregate the points. If it's tied, you play sudden death hole 18. And if not, then it's over. And of course, the USA has just completely dominated this event. Big win last year, but 2 years ago, Europe came very close to winning. It was down to the wire in the match play. These year's teams, Team USA is Gannon Burr, Ricky Wysocki, Calvin Heimburg, Isaac Robinson, Owen Scoggins, and Holland Handley. Team Europe is Nicholas Antila, Simon Lazat, Vaino Makala, Jakub Semrad, Kristen Latt, and Evelina Salonen. Now, you've heard me and Josh talk about this. They really just need to go to a 3-3 format for MPO, FPO. It would make this so much more interesting. The U.S.'s dominance has certainly been driven, especially in recent years, because of the MPO advantage that they have. Like, if you add in Missy to Team USA and Silva to Team Europe, and you drop Jakub Semrad and Isaac Robinson, all of a sudden, like, it feels like quite a bit more competitive. I just don't really see a reason not to have it be balanced in this day and age, right? I get it, right? You look 10 years ago, maybe it didn't make sense to have equal numbers of MPO and FPO, but it does now. Like, the top ends are that good that it feels fair. And why not just be balanced? I don't see a reason not to do it. I think now that the PDGA is running this tournament, there's literally no reason for them not to just make this change next year. I don't understand. There's no claim whatsoever as to why they should stay in this current format. You're giving Europe a better chance too. It will be more competitive. It will be more fun. So let's just do it. Overall, should be a lot of fun. The coverage starts at 3:30 Eastern today on Disc Golf Network. So check that out. Looking forward to seeing what happens, and maybe Europe will pull off the upset. You never know. So let's get to my picks for the Champions Cup. Josh, unfortunately, is down so bad right now that he has not even texted me back in like 36 hours. So I don't have his picks, but I trust that he will get something done before the tournament starts, and we will put them into the Upshot Picks website, which is at discgolf.ultiworld.com/upshot-picks. You can make your own picks if you're a subscriber. So here we go. Look, it's a major. It's time to recognize that the cream rises to the top. The best players tend to step up in these moments. And there is a little bit of course effect that you have to think about. But I am going to have extremely conservative, chalky picks because I just think it's the most likely outcome that these are going to be the podiums. So in FPO, I'm taking Kristen. I'm taking Ella Hansen, who has played phenomenally out here at OTB and won. And I'm taking Holland Handley, who's simply, along with Kristen, the best player right now. They're 1A and 1B for me right now, to be honest. And Holland has all the tools to play great here. She's played okay at Swenson in the past. Not the best, but certainly, she's just playing at another level right now. In MPO, I'm going to start with Calvin. I don't know how you leave him off your picks right now. A top 10 feels almost assured to happen. And, I think he has real upside to podium and even win this thing. And it would be a real monkey off the back. If he wins here, we're going to start talking about, well, when's he going to get a Worlds and a US DGC? But let's take one step at a time. He still needs to get a major win. This is his best opportunity maybe ever. And so you got to put him on the podium. I'm taking Ricky. He's been really fantastic at Swenson. I feel like we started to see his game pick up a little bit in the last couple weeks. I liked what I saw from him in Kansas City, and I love his style. Hard, overstable, flat throws out here at Swenson are the thing that you need. He has an elite forehand. He's just got the right toolkit. And I feel the same way about Gannon Burr, who has finished second here. He's also kind of played not that great here, but I also like where his game is at right now. Obviously, Kansas City, some ups and downs, but overall, the remarkable round one. How can you not feel good about his chances to win out here, and keep up his hot streak as at the majors and just in his career over the last 2 years? So, super chalky picks. I think that there's plenty of other players you could consider here. If you look for some value, you could take somebody like Gossage. You could take Gavin Rathbun, who I think is a real top 10 potential. Cadence Burge is obviously somebody you got to be thinking about every single week in FPO, but I do feel like, this could be like the setback week for Cadence. This is just such a challenging course. She's never played out here. It's a long trip, but won't be shocked if she ends up finishing in the podium, like the way that she played at Kansas City. Of course, Owen, Missy, plenty of other options out there, but I'm going with the strong arms and the proven winners. And so those are my picks this week. We will be doing daily rapid reacts for all the majors this year, including the Champions Cup. So we'll be back with you tomorrow. And I'm very happy to let you know that it will be done live in the Discord, as always, for our subscribers. The round one show will also be released in our public feed for all listeners, courtesy of Pound Disc Golf. So thank you, Pound, for making that possible. Rounds 2, 3, and 4 will be subscriber exclusives. You can sign up for a subscription. It's less than $5 a month. discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Join the Discord. Get all the subscriber bonuses. Hear them live. Hear them post. Join the picks contest every week. It's so much fun, and it's less than a latte. And I know that because I just bought a latte yesterday, and it was like $6. And I was like, why don't I just always make it at home? I should just always make it at home. But sometimes weather was super nice. I wanted to go sit outside and do a little work, and you got to just know when it's the right time to buy yourself a coffee out at the coffee shop. I hope everybody enjoys the Champions Cup. Get well soon, Josh. We're rooting for you. The norovirus is not a fun time. So hopefully Josh will be back with me tomorrow for the reacts, and if not, it'll be over the weekend. So thank you all for tuning in. We will talk to you tomorrow in the round 1 rapid reacts, and we will see you back here next week for a breakdown of all things Champions Cup.